Well, the cracks in Mark Carney's story get deeper and deeper with every day. Now, there has been a new revelation by the National Post that Mark Carney has been accused of plagiarism his whole entire academic career, not only stealing the platform of the Conservative Party, but also stealing hard earned academic work by people who he then tried to pass off on as his own. Welcome to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. I'm your host. Now, all of Canada knows that Mark Carney has stolen every plank of the Conservative platform. He has made no reference to Pierre Poilievre's great ideas that he himself is trying to pass off as his own. And people who have been turning away from Pierre Poilievre simply because they don't understand the politics of the world, simply because they only want to pick the side of Justin Trudeau, don't realize how bad the plagiarism is. Now, plagiarism seems to be Mark Carney's hallmark. It turns out that he not only has been plagiarizing the Conservative platform, he also plagiarized his doctoral thesis at Oxford. All right, so pay attention to how I do this. The National Post is where I picked this up. Chris Shelley, and the title of the article is Carney Goes Nuclear Over Plagiarism Accusations That Should Have Rolled Off His Back. It was written by Chris Shelley, published March 28th, 2025. So what I just did right there was give credit where credit is due. You see how it's credit is due, right? So you have to tell yourself that you must give that credit because that person earned it. They are owed it. And it's not just me that goes about it. I will give you another great example of how it is done. Apparent instances of plagiarism in Mark Carney's 1995 doctoral thesis at Nuffield College, Oxford, unearthed by the National Post's Catherine Levesque this week. In the first part of the article, first thing he says is that this was unleashed, unearthed, released, set out to the world by Catherine Levesque, a colleague of his from the Post. And this article is about Mark Carney's reaction to Catherine Levesque unearthing the fact that his 1994 doctoral thesis is riddled with suppositions and accusations that he plagiarized many parts of his thesis. Now, if any of you understand academia, then you understand that when you write a doctoral thesis, it's supposed to be your own work. And it's supposed to be the final piece that allows you to become officially labeled a doctor. Now, those of you that are not in academia might not understand what I'm talking about, and you might not think that it's that important. But if I were to simplify it, it's just somebody taking credit for somebody else's idea, much like you see the Liberals doing with the platform from the Conservatives, where they've taken every single idea. I mean, even yesterday, I heard Mark Carney mention the Ring of Fire all of a sudden. The Liberals, who want to keep every resource where it is and who get mad at you for picking a leaf, of all of a sudden talking about the Ring of Fire. We'll get into that later. This one, I want to just talk about plagiarism. I'll be completely candid with you. I have a academic background and plagiarism bothers me. It's no different when you steal somebody's song. YouTube, you can't put up somebody else's material. That's the same idea. That's exactly the same thing. They might call it a copyright infringement versus plagiarism, but it is 100% the same point. I don't believe for one second that it was overlooked by Mark Carney, and I'll tell you why here. So there's another story breaking from the Telegraph, which is a paper based primarily in Britain, where in 1990, a fellow by the name of Porter, first government intervention can impede international competition and artificially support domestic profits. Then in 1995, Mark Carney says, first, government intervention can impede international competition and artificially support domestic profits. So that's coming directly out of the thesis and how Mark Carney plagiarized the other individual. And that he's trying to take credit for somebody else's work. You can't do that. And I can tell you that it offends me every time I hear Mark Carney take a platform from Pierre Poilievre. And I'm not sure what offends me more, that people don't see right through it, that people don't understand that he's taking somebody else's idea, passing it off as his own, and expecting you to give him credit for the concept. trying to convince you that he has all of these great ideas when every idea that he seems to have, all of the information that he seems to gather seems to be taken from somebody else, whether it be the credit that he's trying to take for his his very small participation in the 2008 economic housing crisis that was going on, or whether it be taking credit for the idea to cut the GST on new homes, or taking credit for his actual overall doctoral thesis. These kinds of things are important to a person like me because they indicate a guy who has no ability to think for himself. They indicate a guy that will not give credit where credit is due, meaning that if you gave him a good idea, he would simply shut you out and take the idea on his own. Now, the Liberal Party put out a tweet where they had to appeal to authority, right? Which is kind of a weak thing to do, where you had to say, well, somebody else said it. Isn't that what we've been hearing from the Liberal Party for years now? It's never their fault. It's always somebody else's fault. It's not that the economy collapsed because of their horrible economic policies of Mark Carney as the advisor and Justin Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland. No, it's because a butterfly turned left in China and that, destroyed the Canadian economy. So I don't like it when I hear these people try to pretend like they have justification because somebody else said so. Like, you can either hold your own or you can't, especially when you're looking at the accusation of you took your information from somebody else and didn't give them credit for it, and now you want somebody else, that same concept, you want it to work for you instead of against you. I mean, what are you talking about? That's the whole business model of Mark Carney, though, right? You work hard, you raise your pension money, you put it into the bank, and then he takes it, right? He works hard, he gets rich off your hard work. I mean, that's what he does. So I guess it shouldn't surprise us. Nonetheless, let's read the Liberal tweet. Dr. Margaret Mayer, Mark Carney's doctoral supervisor, is unequivocal. There is no evidence of plagiarism in his PhD thesis. Why was he called for a review of it? Why was it unearthed? Now, here's the part that kind of throws everybody off. This Liberal Party who gives National Post a press release all the time, like a press pass all the time. Despite this, the American-owned National Post ignored this evidence and ran a story based on the analysis of a conservative donor and activist. That's right, folks, you heard it. The Liberal Party is accusing the National Post of being biased. The press is somehow against Mark Carney now. American owned. All of Mark Carney's businesses are either in Bermuda or in America or in China. He doesn't have any in Canada. So that makes him an American businessman. I guess that makes him American owned. I guess that's why we can see that Donald Trump likes him, because they travel in the same circles, right? Mark Carney, all of his people that he rubs shoulders with are all wealthy people, millionaires, multimillionaires. Some of the CEOs and CFOs and all of the biggest corporations on earth when he goes to Davos and when he talks to people that he's looking after their money, and when he's hiding Canadian pension funds in Bermuda and not paying any taxes on it, when he's moving jobs to New York so that he can be in Donald Trump's America. So why would he care that the National Post is owned by America? Is he going to start charging them a tariff? Is that the idea? I mean, where does it end? Do we start to charge basketball teams coming up to play the Raptors a tariff because, they're from America? But Mark Carney doesn't seem to care about any of that. He just wants people to stop looking hard at his history. That's why he ran such a short campaign, because he doesn't want people to realize that he's not who he claims to be, that he has to take all of his platform ideas from somewhere else, in this case, in every case, the Conservatives of Canada, which I find to be quite interesting, because technically what Mark Carney is saying is that Pierre Poilievre has all the right ideas. Pierre Poilievre is the man to solve the problem, because I am taking every single solitary idea that he has, except for the gun control and censorship. I'm absolutely going to be clamping down on censorship, and I'm absolutely going to be coming for your gun, Mark Carney will say, the Liberal Party will say. But every other idea that the Conservatives have, Mark Carney has taken as his own, plagiarized it. Really what he's doing is he's giving credit to Pierre Poilievre while he bends his knee to Donald Trump. Don't think for one second that he's anything like he claims to be, or there would be already things happening. But I'll cover what his his lack of reaction to the Donald Trump tariffs in a different one. Right now, I just want to stay focused on the plagiarism because I cannot stand censorship. I cannot stand bullies. I cannot stand people who do not give credit where credit is due. And Mark Carney is all three of those things. And you have to ask yourself as a Canadian, if you're listening to this, you have to ask yourself, what is it that you're looking for? Are you looking for a person who is an honorable leader? Are you looking for a person who will do what he says he's going to do without offering excuses for not being able to accomplish it? Are you looking for someone who can solve the problem with his own ideas, not somebody else's ideas? Then I ask you to look at these men closer, right? And wonder in your mind what's going to be actually best for the country around you, for your life. Do you want someone who is going to take your ideas and run with them and not give you a single nickel in copyright fees or even give you any credit in the back of the story? Do you want someone who has to run around and pay high valued consultants because he can't come up with any problem solving skills of his own? There's a very well established way to take credit, to give credit for someone in a book. It's called a footnote. It's called an endnote. And that's something that we're not going to get into. I just want you to understand that what I see is a person's character. What I'm looking at is the character of an individual who will brazenly take someone else's ideas and not even have an ounce of embarrassment or shame in doing so. I think that speaks to a personality that we have seen much of around us in our leadership for the last 10 years. And I think that we need to start to recognize that Mark Carney is in fact an insider who will enrich all of his friends. So there's no entrepreneurs coming out of the next Liberal government because they will not allow you that sort of freedom. They will not allow you. They will regulate you into paralysis where you won't be able to get a job, you won't be able to start your own business, and you won't be able to buy a home, a car, or any of the things that you always thought about having, especially those of you that are the 4 million people that just got here who told themselves that they were going to go somewhere to make, to improve the quality of their life. So they went halfway around the world to do so. The kind of character that will plagiarize other people's work and not give them credit for it. I mean, we call that, intellectual property theft when the Chinese do it. We call that intellectual property theft whenever it's done by somewhere else. We put patents on information. We put patents on designs. We put patents on ideas. We put copyrights on them, on the creative parts. They all amount to the same thing. And any person who wants to consider himself to be a leader, but will hide behind his very words because he can't handle a little bit of scrutiny, because he can't handle a little bit of criticism. What kind of leader, when you look back through history, can't handle criticism? Are they the kind of leader that you think is going to get you to the promised land? Or are they the kind of leader that you think that's going to clamp down on you as soon as he hears something that he doesn't want to hear, and he will lash out with all of the authority, whether it be, right or wrong, he will still do so. All I'm trying to get you to appreciate is that a person's character matters. And that's why he's supposed to be called the right honorable, right? I mean, he's the only person in the entire government that gets the word right in front. Everybody else is an honorable MP. But he's supposed to be the right honorable prime minister. And does that sound like the action or the behavior of a person who has a shred of honor, self-respect, or decency? And then where will he take you if he's prepared to go to those lengths to just take credit for somebody else's work or to plagiarize somebody else's platform? Where will he lead us? How can we hope that he will lead us to anything with a good turnout? And if it were a bad turnout, how can we say that he'll get out of the way like his predecessor refused to do? These things are important for us to calculate, important for us to think about. We have to understand what we're up against. We have to get up off our butts and cast our vote. I'm not trying to tell you who you should vote for, but I am absolutely trying to tell you that let's get Canada to, a 95% voter turnout. Because any person out there listening to my voice has to understand that there's nowhere you can go in this world that you will escape politics. All right, I'm going to wrap here. I want to thank you for listening. I'll talk to you next time.